Welcome to the show both feared and revered by man and beast, the heliosblog. Today, on Piers Morgan. Well, P. Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters, apparently.
It's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
You've been called a whistleblower. You knew Sean Diddy Combs for a long time. You attended a number of his infamous parties. And in 2022, you made headlines after comments where you called him a sex trafficker. And in response, you were called crazy and jealous. Do you feel vindicated by the events of the last few weeks?
No, not at all. Because he's just the beginning. Until him and his cohorts are all held to account publicly and legally, the victims, they're not safe.
How bad was it?
That's what I care about. I care about the victims.
No, I understand. How bad was it, do you think, what was going on?
I'm going to tell you right now that me, as a woman who has been in the industry for over 30 years, I've been performing live since I was 13. My first handler was McKinley Horton. I come to find out 25 years later that a scar that was on his face with a very elaborate story he gave me was put there by a woman who he assaulted. To live through these things and hear your elders in the business, people like Patti LaBelle say, just avoid him, honey. And being taught to be just avoid him, honey. It's not good enough. Not when you live through these things, you're still suffering the PTSD created by all of this, and you're talking to a victim that's 20 years younger than you, and she's telling you the exact same thing that happened to you.
Again, this is like... Sorry, but all I see this for what it is. It's just cockroaches coming out of the woodwork trying to clutch at the spotlight. Sorry, that's all I'm seeing here. Oh, look at how virtuous I am. I'm speaking out against this person. Buy my book that I've recently written on how Jay-Z and P. Diddy are monsters. You know? Sorry, that's all I hear in the tone of this woman. Psychopath. Doing anything for clout. Now, that they're monsters, Jay-Z and P. Diddy, I don't know about Jay-Z, but certainly it's not sounding good for Diddy. I believe that goes without question. But don't sit here and tell me that you're doing this for any reason other than clout. Anyway.
So you want to know why there's no vindication for me? Because for 4 years, I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
Jay-Z has been notable by his silence since these charges were brought against Diddy. Why do you think that is?
Because that's what he does. He starts little fires everywhere. Forces everyone involved to go and carry water while he sneaks away without a response. That changes now, Sean. You must respond. You have no choice. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Kelly, Sean Combs have one person in common, professionally and privately. Sean Carter. This has been a fist of tyranny that has been punching through.
Okay. My lord. It's just... Is this rehearsed or what? Does it sound rehearsed to anybody else?
Our culture and our...
actor.
Our society for decades. It must stop.
There's been obviously a lot of
Cruelty-free artistry.
right. There's been a lot of rumor mill about what has happened in the rap world. A lot of allegations that the misogyny in the lyrics clearly was based on a general misogyny towards women away from the music, and that clearly seems to have been borne out by these charges against Diddy, which if he's found guilty of all this, he's never coming out of prison. How dangerous do you think?
Thank God.
How dangerous do you think he is as a person?
I think he's one of the most dangerous people I've ever met. A lot of people have been questioning.
Okay, but that's true of anyone with billions of dollars, right?
Well, she doesn't really know him. She has no knowledge of him. She doesn't have a picture with him. I'm smarter than Claudia Jordan. I would never take a picture with the devil. Everyone knew he was the devil. He's been the devil for 30 years. He's been covered and protected by not only Clive Davis, but Lucian Grange. He was selected to be the demon that he is, to keep the culture in line so the industry could continue to rape it for all of its precious jewels. We have too many lost. The list of lost is ridiculous, and everyone knows Diddy was selected for this job. He's the Judas.
What? Sorry, you're going to need to elaborate.
Do you
Because I don't understand what you're actually talking about.
think that if he's cornered in the way that he's been now, that he may start revealing things about other people?
He has no choice. His ego and his drug addiction won't allow him to do anything different. Anybody who thinks he's not going to talk is crazy.
Okay. But my only response to what you're saying is 2 words. Jeffrey Epstein.
The simple fact that he's not saying more now only means that the people who have been protecting him all along, who put him in position to be such a horror to the black community, still find value in him. He's got everybody on tape. They all know it. It's a mess.
For those who were never at these freak-off parties, what were they like?
See, this is the thing. Everything that I'm about to say to you is not my firsthand knowledge. It is my firsthand witness account experience. I was a sex worker. I was a dominatrix
There it is.
before I got my record deal. That's how I know how the dark world and the sex world and the entertainment world run hand in hand. That's why the movie Blink Twice is so important. Salute to Zoe Kravitz. The sex workers that I have worked with throughout the years and continue to work with even to this day have worn hidden cameras. I have my own tapes. I've seen what they do. The ritualistic behaviors, the drugging, putting girls in the suitcases, dumping them in alleyways. It's horrifying. And it's
Wait. Is she implying that they used them and then discarded them? They killed them? That's my lord. What? No way. What?
It's all done under the protection of this is going to be paid off. There's another NDA. This is going to be, it's terrible.
It seems to have been something that a lot of people knew about, but people were simply too
Everyone
scared
knows.
to talk about.
Everyone knows. And every person that's sitting there trying.
Yeah, there was a funny comment I received on one of the videos, like, apparently everyone who went to a Diddy party, everyone has never been to a freak-off.
To act surprised knows very well. The whole point of this, like Cat Williams said when he sat with Shay Shay earlier this year, the whole point of this is for them in a coordinated effort to pretend like none of it is real for the public's perception. But everyone knows what's going on, and it's been going on for years. It's been going on before Diddy. See, people keep looking at him like he's the Sputnik that came out of nowhere. This is someone who was designed to be what he is. We got to stop making Diddies. And if we're going to do that, then we got to go back. We got to go back to even further, the mentors of these people. Because Diddy was taught how to do what he does systematically, and Clive Davis has been his greatest teacher.
Look, Clive Davis is not here to respond to that, nor is Jay-Z. But a lot of people, famous people in the music industry, have been notable, like I say, by their silence so far. It's also been notable that since the Me Too campaign began in 2017, the music industry has largely avoided the same scrutiny that other industries have had. Why do you think that is?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Since Me Too began in 2017, the music industry has largely avoided the same kind of scrutiny that other industries have had. Why do you think that is?
Well, because the Me Too movement was a ruse. It was a setup. It was a scam. I'm saying that now, publicly. Dream Hampton spearheaded the Surviving R. Kelly campaign, which fueled the Me Too campaign. And that was all funded by Sean Carter to make sure that Robert Kelly went to jail. Get his lick back. Why is nobody understanding that Dream Hampton was being financed and ran by Sean Carter? They were able to go and get all of these witnesses because he was there with Robert Kelly.
Sean Carter is P. Diddy, by the way. Jay-Z.
How does Jay-Z sit down with Gayle King and she not ask him one question about the intersection between him and Aaliyah and Robert Kelly? This is insane that people keep refusing to see what's right there. If the Me Too movement were real, why aren't they speaking now? They've also been very quiet in this time of the diddler's downfall.
Jaguar,
Guess they're on vacation.
If this goes to court, Jaguar, do you think the world is going to be shocked by what comes out?
Oh, absolutely. I just don't know why they are. It's been happening in front of everyone's faces for decades. For decades.
How many victims?
What's the difference between me and Judy Garland? Social media.
How many victims?
There was none for her.
How many victims potentially do you think there could be?
Thousands. Thousands. I've talked to hundreds that I deal with still myself. I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well.
Lordy Lord.
They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim Porter?
Keeping people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane. Unconscious. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, Piers.
Listen, like I said, Jay-Z and Beyonce are not here, unfortunately, to respond to that.
I know. I'm just being honest with you.
No, you're perfectly entitled to your views, obviously. Kim Porter,
Yes.
a new book claims that Diddy may have been involved in her early death. What do you think of that?
I think people should really look into that more. I am friends with Albie Shore. I love him. I love his children. I knew Kim. We used to all hang out together at the Kit Kat Club back in the mid-90s when Diddy was first starting his reign. I watched that whole thing happen. And everything that Albert has been through, every attempt on his life that has been ignored by the authorities, it all leads back to Diddy. And everyone knows it. The wiretapping of the phones, putting air tag on children during visits. These are normal practices that these people do.
Jaguar,
What's AirTag? Sorry, I don't know.
got to leave it there. I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for caring.
I do care. Thank you very much. Well, I'm joined now by the host of Vlad TV, DJ Vlad. DJ Vlad, I mean, it's pretty horrifying listening to these testimonies. What did you make of what you just heard?
Well, Jaguar Wright is known to be a conspiracy theorist. I don't really co-sign anything that she says. I've never had her on my show, and I don't have any plans to have her on my show.
You don't believe her?
She had an album in 20 years, and a lot of this stuff is just stuff she's heard, things she's making up, and so forth. I'm not saying that there aren't serious things that Diddy may have done, but yeah, I can't co-sign anything that Jaguar Wright is saying, if that's your question.
Well, I mean, obviously, since we last spoke, there have now been these charges against Diddy,
He's got this this wry smile, political smile.
which are incredibly serious. You didn't think at the time we last spoke that he was likely to face these charges. Are you surprised it's come to this?
I'm not surprised, because I feel that law enforcement in general is reactionary. I think that when you look at high-profile individuals, their arrests, indictments usually come after a documentary, a big TV show, or in Diddy's case, it was this huge lawsuit that Cassie filed, and everyone got to see all the details and all the attention that came to it. So yeah, it wasn't a surprise that it actually happened, because you've seen this happen over and over again. R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein, all the attention that they got, and then now Diddy. So yeah, I mean, this is ultimately the world that we live in. But he'll have his day in court. And, you know, his lawyer said that he's not going to take a plea deal, because I think a plea deal at this point is probably going to be very heavy-handed, probably 20 years plus. So it makes sense for him to go to court. But we'll ultimately see what happens, you know, because we haven't really seen, apart from some of the funny stuff of, oh, there's 1 million bottles of lube that they found there. I'm sorry, 1,000 bottles of lube and so forth. We have yet to really see what the evidence is. And I think once we see the actual evidence, then people will actually formulate an opinion on what's happening right now.
Do you think there's a lot of people in the rap world in particular who are pretty fearful right now of where this may all lead? Is it a bit like the Epstein scandal, do you think?
I don't really think so, because, I mean, ultimately, everyone wanted to go to Diddy's white parties when they were happening. You know, if I got an invite, I would go. But there's a party within a party. There's the actual party where the big celebrities go to, the Howard Sterns and the Leonardo DiCaprios and so forth. You never hear of any of them really being involved in any of this stuff. They go home, you know, at 2, 3 o'clock a.m. And then there's the private parties that seem to involve the sex workers and probably certain types of people that are kind of in an inner circle. No. And we'll see if those names ultimately come out or not. You know, I think that when it comes to a situation like the feds, cooperating is a very big thing. And I think if Diddy cooperates and gives up some big names of actual crimes that they committed, that'd be a way of actually, you know, lessening,
Reducing his own sentence.
On a time that he does, or possibly even walking away.
I mean, what had you heard about Diddy over the years? Obviously, people knew he had parties. They knew he was a big rap star and so on. But the nature of this kind of thing. I mean, I'm asking because when I watched, for example, I met Diddy a couple of times. He was always perfectly charming to me. But you know, I've met a lot of people who are charming and turned out to be monsters. The video that came out of showing him beating up his then girlfriend in a hotel corridor was so shocking that when I watched it, I remember thinking, well, this guy,
Jesus, is what I would be thinking.
like, is capable of anything. I mean, a man that would do that, who's that famous.
Why does DJ Vlad have like a repressed smile here when he hears this story?
Who would do that to a woman in a hotel corridor, public hotel corridor, if he's prepared to be that violent in public knowing there might be cameras around, he's prepared to do pretty much anything, was my conclusion. I mean, what did you hear about him over the years?
Yeah, I mean, that tape was horrific. And after our interview that we did with Roger Bonds, who I helped to bring onto the show, I did my own interview with Roger Bonds. It was a very in-depth, I think, two-hour interview where he goes into actually witnessing a lot of women that were physically abused by Diddy. I mean, not only Cassie, of course, which he saw multiple times, but Kim Porter. He was on a trip where Kim Porter got her nose broken allegedly by Diddy and flew in a plastic surgeon to fix it. There was a personal chef that Diddy beat up. I actually heard voicemails of her describing it. This wasn't even something that she wanted to come publicly with. There was other women as well that I got details on. So I think that Diddy has a long history of violence towards women, but also of men, because there's also the Steve Stout incident. If you remember that whole situation, he was in a music video with Nas, Hate Me Now, and there was a scene where Diddy was on the cross like Jesus, and I guess he went to Steve Stout afterwards and said that he wants to take that part out. That part wasn't taken out, so Diddy and his entourage show up at Steve Stout's office and they beat him with a champagne bottle, which they ultimately settled out of court for. So I think there's a lot of violence that has happened around him, and I think at this point it's just catching up to him.
There's lots of rumor mills about him being secretly gay or bisexual or whatever. I mean, I don't care, but do you think there's much credence to those?
I mean, it's hard to say. I have heard, because remember, for example, the Wendy Williams situation. She was on the radio in New York, and she said that she had photos of Diddy in a gay type environment of some sort. And I had someone actually explain to me what that photo was after the fact. And Diddy came in and threatened to sue the radio station unless she was fired. And she was fired, and she had to go to Philly for, I think, 5 years or something like that. So there was that. I'm not sure how true it is, because it was just a photo, and a photo, could mean a lot of different things. I mean, the fact that he's a cuckold, that he likes to masturbate while watching women that he's with have sex with other men. I don't know. Is that gay? Is that bisexual? Is that just being a cuckold? It's hard to say. It's not something that I'm actually into. But I'm sure it blurs the lines between homosexuality and bisexuality somewhat. But I don't think he's exclusively gay, because he has a lot of children. It's hard to really say, and it ultimately doesn't really matter. And, I've talked about this in my interviews. I think if he came forward and said, hey, I'm a bisexual man, I think a lot of the jokes, like the no Diddy jokes and so forth, will kind of ease down, and people might actually be a little understanding of his situation a little bit more, as opposed to him denying it. But ultimately, who knows? I have no idea.
We've talked, people have talked a lot in the last few years that it's unusual that so few people in the music business have been held to account under the Me Too campaign umbrella in the way that other industries were held to account. Could this be, following R. Kelly and others, could this be a tipping point where there might be a lot of other rap stars in particular, perhaps with very checkered backgrounds, lots of rumors about them, could all start falling like dominoes?
It's hard to say. Like I said in the beginning, it's very reactionary. I think if there is a lot of media attention over somebody, there's a documentary about them, there's movies about them and so forth, I think that ends up getting on law enforcement's radar, and then you will see things kind of escalate very quickly. It's hard to say. R. Kelly was extremely high profile, and there will be others, but I don't think that the music industry is really having less situations than other industries. I mean, every industry has certain situations and they're high profile, and there's a bunch of other stuff that kind of falls below the radar.
Finally, DJ, what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think Diddy will ever come out of prison?
That's a tough one, because I was really shocked that he didn't get a bond. I thought for sure that he'd be sitting in his mansion right now awaiting trial, but he's sitting in a jail cell right now, and it could be years before this actually makes it to trial. So it proves that things are very, very serious on his end. And if you look at the R. Kelly situation, he got, I believe, 30 years. This may fall along the same lines, except the only difference is when I looked into the R. Kelly case, a lot of the convictions were based on underage girls. You know, you've heard a few spatterings of underage accusations, but in general, it seemed like most of the women were of legal age in the Diddy case. So I'm thinking it won't be as severe as it is with Diddy. As it is with R. Kelly. But for someone like Diddy, who's in his mid-50s, he doesn't want to spend 5, 10, 20 years in prison.
No.
He wants to get out. He wants to keep it moving. So I think he will get out of prison at one point. It's just hard to say, you know, right now what it's going to be.
Yeah, it is. It's a fascinating story. DJ Vat, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm joined now by Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, who's a lawyer for one of Diddy's alleged victims. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. There are so many people coming forward now with allegations about Diddy. What do you think about the scale of this case?
Well, before I get into that, I kind of want to address the prior two panelists. First with Mrs. Jaguar White. She said a lot of things that were very jarring in her explanation of what she saw and had firsthand accounts on. My concern for her, she's saying a lot of things that could be considered libelous.
Right.
And I would suggest that she contacts an attorney, if only to vet the information she has or purports to have from other victims. At least they can protect her, and then they can also do their due diligence, the attorneys, to make sure that the information she's receiving is accurate outside.
Indeed. Yeah. I called the tone immediately. Got me, what's it called? Got my hackles up. Okay. Anyway, let's end the video there. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all for notifications. Buy my books like Hunter M, Adrian Ott, Tom M, Bobby, Dylan, Renaissance Press, Brian, Andrew, Alan, Armani, and Nicholas. Shout outs to you, most recent purchase of both my books, Quotes to Live By and Strategist Guide to Seduction. You can find my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks. If you want me to teach you how to be better at getting girls, just message me at theheliosblog@gmail.com. That's my coaching service right there. Thank you so much for listening, guys, especially if you listen to the end. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.